Helen Dalton is the member for Murray in New South Wales. Thanks for joining us today on Flow.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, it's been pretty damp in your part of the world. How's that affecting crops, and is there some flooding impact in this seat of Murray?
Look, not quite flooding yet, but it's certainly building. I know we're expecting another 30 or 40 mils in the next few days, so that will probably really impact on what's going on and whether creeks and rivers will start to flood. The crops at the moment are just on the verge of ripening, and I know that some people in my area began stripping, so they obviously will be held up. We tried on our property to get a sample yesterday, and the crop is still a little bit high in moisture, so now with the 30 mils coming along, it's going to really hold us up, and we may see impact on yield now, I think.
Yeah, right. Well, and the concern was there. The New South Wales farmers have been talking about the mice as well, and keeping your getting your zinc phosphate rebates and getting your baits out there. Any signs the little nibblers are around?
No, I think they're more to the north of the state. I know I keep a fairly good eye out around home, and I haven't seen too much mice or too much mice damage. So they've been keeping quiet at the moment. So, but never say never, and. Yep. We've all got to keep an eye out and be very, very vigilant.
Yep, so to mash a metaphor, let's let sleeping mice lie. Helen, let's just get on to some policy topics. You've released and had to fight hard to get the Tocumwal-Narrandera Rail Line report out. What does it say, and what do you think needs to be done with it?
Look, basically the Tocumwal-Narrandera Rail Line really had very narrow terms of reference, and it was done during the drought. So a lot of the the information was based on drought, and not when the seasons are good. The report, of course, was kept hidden, and we've asked for that to be put out in the public sector, and we've had to fight hard for that, and that's now out. What I would really like is for the government to invest in the regions, take another good look at this report. I also hope that the private sector has a look and can use the information to do something more substantial. So with the narrow terms of reference, I think it's a starting point, but it's certainly not the whole picture.
Well, the cost-benefit seems to have come back that it doesn't quite stack up, but they did say, well, if they could do a public-private partnership or get the private sector wearing some of the risk, maybe it could fly.
Look, it could, and there were some things that they didn't consider at all in the report. So let's take a look at it and let's see what can be done. But really, we need visionary planning, not hollow promises, and we need to look to what's needed into the future, and this includes logistics such as rail. The farmers are looking to increase yields, and we always seem to make gains in that regard. And we're always looking for improved efficiencies. We want the government to do the same. So take another good look at it and investigate it properly, and that could be for the government and for private interests also to do that, and perhaps have that joint venture.
Where that rubber hits the road on cost-benefit, when you look at what's happened in the Independent Commission Against Corruption hearings into Gladys Berejiklian's decision-making, is if the project doesn't stack up on cost-benefit, sometimes it still gets over the line thanks to the advocacy of an MP or developer. The New South Wales opposition are putting forward a bill to make sure that there's more transparency so that rorting of grants doesn't happen again. What's your view on rorting when it comes to grant allocations?
I think that's the way the government has done business for years, and sometimes I think that's what they think is normal, and that's what they think is right. So this bill will actually, hopefully, have clearer rules around the administration and rewards of grant, especially more transparency around how grants are published and publicised, and clarity, and who has responsibility. And we want things to be documented properly, because we have heard about the Premier shredding documents. So it's all about transparency and fairness too. So we all deserve to have something in our electorates. Again, it comes back to, I would like to see the government also really planning for the future, especially out in the bush where we're looking at logistics and looking at really putting money into visionary projects as well. So, such as getting back to the Narrandera Tocumwal line, planning for the future, and that and also looking at smaller regional towns, giving some injection of funding to make them more attractive for people to come out and work and live in the regions.
Now, with these grants, sometimes we pick up in other parts of the Flo family, local MP suddenly discovers the minister's in the electorate making an announcement that someone's got a grant, and it's the first you hear about it. Does that happen in the seat of Murray?
My word, it does. So, yeah, it's all very secret squirrel. And last night we had a bill came up from Roy Butler, who's my colleague, member for Barwon, talking about at least having the good manners to let the local MP know, because the local MPs often work with councils and they've worked for a number of years trying to get a project up, and they're not invited to the opening, or they're not even told that the grant's been awarded. And to add insult to injury, usually another member from the coalition gets invited in to actually open the project without even letting the MP know. So a little bit of good manners and common sense wouldn't go astray.
Well, one of your parliamentary colleagues and sparring partner, I think, on social media, Wes Fang MLC, likes to come down the road and say a few things. Has he been part of those grant conversations sometimes and local announcements?
Absolutely, he has. And he was in my area in Griffith last weekend. I was invited to the opening, but of course we've got 3 back-to-back sitting weeks, and it's hard for me to get home because as soon as I get home I'd have to turn around, that's for the weekend, and turn around and come back. So I didn't attend. I did get an invitation, but I think people expect the local member to be opening these projects. The project that was there was a community centre, and they built a beautiful building for that, and which it certainly, me being the member, had some impact on the money coming to my region. So it was a little bit unfair that I don't get to open those projects because we've had a bit to do with it.
Well, Mr. Fang, on social media, the Nationals MLC likes to have a bit of a go sometimes. He was asking about your position versus that of your Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Party colleagues on the Wagga Dam. Are you all on the same page in the party on that one?
Look, we are very pro-dam building, there's no doubt about that. But me being an irrigator, I absolutely understand what they're trying to do. And really, Wagga Dam, as far as the back of the envelope figures are for the government, because they haven't really released a proper study.
This is about raising the wall, isn't it? Raising the height and the capacity of the dam?
And the project has blown out from $650 million to $2 billion for 21 gigalitres of water, which is not a lot of water. And that doesn't stack up. So I'm all for building dams, but not for throwing money at projects which really are just blown out and don't make sense. Now, $2 billion could be used in perhaps efficiencies with environmental watering, saving of water that way. The current flooding on the Lachlan is something that happens not that often, but I guess it's here now. Even if that dam was built, there would be substantial flooding downstream. And I did hear Melinda Pavey, the Water Minister, on the radio today saying, they have to do all the checks and balances and whatever, and it takes time to build a dam. I would suggest that the National Party have never, apart from Dungowan Dam, built anything. They haven't even built a weir, and they've been talking about it for a very, very long time. The cost has blown out to $2 billion. It is not cost effective, and I think that it would be a silly investment. And I do believe it's not for irrigation anyway, it's for mining.
Right.
We're yet to see the business case, and we're yet to see some transparency and honesty around this project.
You just mentioned back of the envelope. I was trying to do it quickly when you mentioned that. How many gigalitres for how much spend in billions of dollars? What does that equate per megalitre for what could be saved in permanent water? Well,
21 gigalitres is 21,000 megs. And you're looking at like 100,000, say back of the envelope, $100,000 per meg. It's the most expensive water in the world.
I think that's a pretty obscene figure. All right. Well, Helen, we can see some of where your argument's going. Just lastly, on the euthanasia debate that's in Parliament this week, may even be covered today. Are you speaking on it? Have you reached a view on that one?
Yes, I spoke on it last week. So they're dedicating, it seems, Fridays now for members to speak on the voluntary assisted dying. Spoke on it last week, and today they continue the debate. I think there are plenty of amendments that they will have to sort through as well. So it's going to be a long, drawn-out process. We're hoping that perhaps it may pass the lower house before the end of the year. We've got next week as well. But it is certainly a long, drawn-out process, and I wouldn't expect the bill to be passed through both houses this year.
Now, Joe McGirr, the independent member for Wagga Wagga, he has declared as a physician he can't support the bill. You got a position on the bill yet, or are you waiting to see how amendments play out?
Look, I have a position on the bill. In my electorate, there has been polling done, and I know that well over 75% are supportive of this bill, people. It really won't, in effect, unfortunately, we haven't got the services because there are a lot of safeguards with this bill. And one of the safeguards is if you are considering a voluntary assisted dying, that you need to see psychiatrists and psychologists. You need all those professionals to help you reach that decision and guide you through. And they are not in my electorate. So what I'm calling for is for the Premier to really lift our services. We have had downgraded health services for many, many years, and that's going to take a long time for those services to be returned, and also we need extra services.
So Dr McGirr, he said he was concerned this bill would widen the gap between city and regional health consumers. Is that a concern you've got, that, or is it a condition on your support for the bill? Is it there needs to be something locked in to make sure those services come to your electorate?
Well, I think the reality of that is not for the next few years at least. I mean, I keep pushing for those services to be in our community, but you've got to realise Dr McGirr is in Wagga and he's likely to get those services there. We will have to travel to Wagga or further afield to speak to psychiatrists and psychologists with all those safeguards. So whilst I'm supporting the bill, I know that, it will be highly unlikely for people, they will have to travel to get professional help.
Right, well, Helen Dalton, member for Murray, great to have a chat with you, and all the best on the land, on the farm as well.
Thank you so much.